Welcome, everybody, and uh, good to see you all here. And let us start with how are you doing and how's your meditation? And you came in first, Barley, so you get to talk first.
Well, I was saying that I was on vacation from last Sunday to this last Sunday, and I was nowhere into meditating. But the whole atmosphere was sort of meditative in one sense, I guess. But since I got back, I have been. I meditated to something from Thich Nhat Hanh,
Hmm.
and it was sad to see that he has
Yes.
passed. Although he said that you will see him in his friend's smile. So things like that. That was good.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think you're really lucky if you drop into meditation and it really drops you, because sometimes they're all different.
Hmm. Well, it depends on where your mind is at the time,
Mm, yeah,
and that's the mind is all over the place often.
yeah.
Okay, how about you, Doug?
I've had a pretty good week at it. Most every day. I've missed a couple of days, I think, but now that I'm healthy again, like the last 3 or 4 days, I've been having good meditations.
That's
Mhm.
good. And after you had this time where it wasn't as good, uh, is it enjoyable to have good meditations again?
Oh, for sure. Yes, definitely is.
Uh-huh. Good, good. That's exactly right. Because if that's the case, then the meditation becomes its own reward.
Uh-huh. Well, yes, it definitely is because I feel better after.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
great. How about you, Cheryl?
More regular than previously, so that's good. It's coming, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Lots of uproar right now in my life, but I meditated more days than not, and it's been pretty good actually.
Okay, good. Does the meditation help the uproars?
Oh yeah, uproar is going to continue for months. It's just something I have to get used to.
Well, by help the upwards, I meant just help maintain equanimity in the midst
uh,
of them.
I think that it helps some, yeah.
Okay, okay,
Mhm.
okay. How about you, Carol?
Not much to report. We've meditated most days and it continues to be fine.
That's good. Okay. Now we have a good program today. I'm going to start right now with a video. Uh, and what we're going to be dealing with uh, today is some of the famous Zen stories, and I'll talk more about them uh, a little later. But
A cup of tea. Nanin, a Japanese master during the Meiji era, that was at the end of the 1800s, received a university professor who came to inquire about Zen. Nanin served tea. He poured his visitor's cup full and then kept on pouring. The professor watched the overflow until he could no longer restrain himself. It's full, it's full. No more will go in. Nanin said, like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup? And the cup, of course, that we're talking about is the cup of our own fixed beliefs. The cup of the filter with which we see all reality from. So when we're talking about fundamental truths, and people have very fixed beliefs that they have not examined, they don't hear. There's a saying in one of the Buddhist traditions that the secret teachings hide themselves. And they hide themselves, or we hide them from us, because we can't see the deep teachings of things because our mind is already so clouded, full of opinions. There's a saying in Zen called that is not knowing is most intimate. That when we have an empty mind, we can be curious. When we have an empty mind, we can hear what somebody is really saying. When we have an empty mind, we actually can be present without a barrier. So, to empty one's mind, to learn about the spaciousness below thought, to learn that we are not our thoughts, to empty one's mind, then we become a vessel of learning, of receptivity, of listening.
Yes.
And now we will have our first meditation, and mindfulness is present moment awareness, paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Feel your breath in and out, fully receive whatever it experienced, and then let it go. All right. Now, today I will read a few Zen stories, and these are from 101 Zen stories found in the book Zen Flesh Zen Bones by Paul Reps. From his introduction, these stories were transcribed into English from a book called Collection of Sand in Stone, written late in the 13th century by the Japanese Zen teacher Muju, and from anecdotes of Zen monks taken from various books published in Japan around the turn of the last century. Zen might be called the inner art and design of the Orient. It was rooted in China by Bodhidharma, who came from India in the 6th century and was carried eastward in Japan by the 12th century. It has been described as a special teaching without scriptures, without words and letters, pointing to the mind essence of man, seeing directly into one's own nature, attaining enlightenment. Zen was known as Chan in China. The Chan Zen masters, instead of being followers of the Buddha, aspired to be his friends and to place themselves in the same responsive relationship with the universe as did Buddha and Jesus. Zen is not a sect, but an experience. The Zen habit of self-searching through meditation to realize one's true nature with disregard of formalism and insistence on self-discipline and simplicity of living won the support of the nobility and ruling classes in Japan and the profound respect of all levels of philosophical thought in the Orient. Zen carries many meanings, none of them entirely definable. If they are defined, they are not Zen. It has been said that if you have Zen in your life, you have no fear, no doubt, no unnecessary craving, no extreme emotion, neither illiberal attitudes nor egotistical actions trouble you. You serve humanity humbly, fulfilling your presence in this world with loving kindness, and observing your passing as a petal falling from a flower. It is from innumerable and actual adventures in Zen that these stories have evolved. May the reader in turn realize them in living experience today. Zen Flesh Zen Bones was the first book I read about spiritual practice. I read it when I was 22 years old after reading Hermann Hesse's book Siddhartha and becoming entranced with the image of Siddhartha late in the book as a boatman ferrying people across a river and just happily watching the river go by. When I read it, I somehow knew I should not just read it quickly like the many sci-fi books I read, but savor it and read it slowly enough to absorb each story. It took me months to read it like this, and the stories have stayed with me ever since then. In the email I send after these sessions with a video, I will include a link to these stories. and I'll read a few of these stories today and over the next weeks. This week are stories that illustrate the right attitude to take towards practice. I'll start with this story: The Moon Cannot Be Stolen. Ryakan, a Zen master, lived the simplest kind of life in a little hut at the foot of a mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut only to discover that there was nothing in it to steal. Ryakan returned and caught him. "You may have come a long way to visit me," he told the prowler, "and you should not return empty-handed. Please take my clothes as a gift." The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and slunk away. Ryakan sat naked, watching the moon. "Poor fellow," he mused. "I wish I could give him this beautiful moon." My note: the moon was a metaphor in Zen for your deepest, innermost self, that which does not change even as everything else does. That is what Ryakan wished he could give to the thief. Next is a parable. Buddha told a parable in a sutra. A man traveling across a field encountered a tiger. He fled, the tiger after him. Coming to a precipice, he caught hold of the root of a wild vine and swung himself over the edge. The tiger sniffed at him from above. Trembling, the man looked down to where, far below, another tiger was waiting to eat him. Only the vine sustained him. Two mice, one white and one black, little by little started to gnaw away at the vine. The man saw a luscious strawberry near him. Grasping the vine with one hand, he plucked the strawberry with the other. How sweet it tasted! My note: in mindfulness, we're instructed fully receive whatever is experienced. Buddha goes beyond this here. He says to relish what is here before you let go of it as it passes. Mindfulness opens the door to the experience of the present moment. This is where joy is experienced. Open yourself to this joy. The next story is Open Your Own Treasure House. Daiju visited the master Baso in China. Baso asked, "What do you seek?" "Enlightenment," replied Daiju. "You have your own treasure house. Why do you search outside?" Baso asked. Daiju inquired, "Where is my treasure house?" Basu answered, "What you are asking me is your treasure house." Daiju was enlightened. Ever after, he urged his friends, "Open your own treasure house and use those treasures." My, my note: what we learn in mindfulness is to open our treasure house and look in. You'll find the greatest treasures are found within. And so now I'm going to play another video, an Alan Watts video that I think you'll find worthwhile.
Any experience that we have through our senses, whether of sound or of light or of touch, is a vibration. And a vibration has two aspects, one called on and the other called off. Vibration seems to be propagated in waves, and every wave system has crests and it has troughs. And so life is a system of now you see it, now you don't. And these two aspects always go together. For example, sound is not pure sound, it is a rapid alternation of sound and silence. And that's simply the way things are. Only you must remember that the crest and the trough of a wave are inseparable. Nobody ever saw crests without troughs or troughs without crests, just as you don't encounter in life people with fronts but no backs, just as you don't encounter a coin that has heads but no tails. And although the heads and the tails, the fronts and the backs, the positives and the negatives are different, they're at the same time one. And one has to get used fundamentally to the notion that different things can be inseparable. That what is explicitly two can at the same time be implicitly one. If you forget that, very funny things happen. Because you see, the human awareness is a very odd mechanism. We have, as a species, specialized in a certain kind of awareness, which we call conscious attention. The price which we pay for specialization in conscious attention is ignorance of everything outside its field. I would rather say ignorance than ignorance. You tend, therefore, to see the world in a disintegrated aspect. You take separate things and events seriously, imagining that these really do exist, when actually they're what you make out of it. Now, in Western culture, it is practically a basic assumption that existence is serious. This is particularly true among people who call themselves existentialists. When they talk about a person who exists authentically, they mean that he takes his life seriously and other people's lives seriously. But the poet and essayist G.K. Chesterton once observed that the angels fly because they take themselves lightly. If the angels take themselves lightly, how much more so the Lord of the angels? But you see, we have been brought up in a mythological context where the Lord God definitely does take himself seriously and is indeed the serious person. So that when we go into church, laughter is discouraged in the same way as it's discouraged in court. This is a serious matter, and everybody has to have the right expression on their faces. Because this is the great, great authority figure. This is Grandpa. Who says, all you kids, you know. And we don't realize that he has a twinkle in his eye. But the basis of it all is this, then. If we say, you must survive, or I must survive, life is earnest, and I've got to go on, then your life is a drag and not a game. Now, it's my contention, my personal opinion, that existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at. But that it is best understood by analogy with music. Because music, as an art form, is essentially playful. We say you play the piano. You don't work the piano. Why? Music differs from, say, travel. When you travel, you are trying to get somewhere. And of course, we, because being a very compulsive and purposive culture, are busy getting everywhere faster and faster and faster till we eliminate the distance between places. What happens as a result of that is that the two ends of your journey become the same place. In music, though, one doesn't make the end of a composition the point of the composition. Now, but we don't see that as something brought by our education into our everyday conduct. We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. And yeah, you go to kindergarten, you know, and that's a great thing because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then come on, first grade leads to second grade and so on, and then you get out of grade school, and you've got high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school, and when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance, and they've got that quota to make, and you're going to make that. And all the time, the thing is coming. It's coming, that great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax, a dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything by expectation. Look at the people who live to retire and put those savings away. And then when they're 65, they don't have any energy left, they're more or less impotent. They go and rot in an old people's, senior citizens community. Because we've simply cheated ourselves the whole way down the line. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end. Success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played. So then, if you see, on the other hand, that existence is musical in nature, that is to say that it is not serious, it is the play, you've got to let go and let it happen, because if you don't, you're going to be all clutched up. You're going to be constantly trying to do what can happen healthily only if you don't try. And when people, when you think a bit what people really want to do with their time, what do they do when they're not being pushed around and somebody's telling them what to do? They like to make rhythms. They listen to music, they dance, or they sing, or they do something of a rhythmic nature, playing cards, or bowling, or raising their elbows. Everybody wants to spend their time swinging. And that's the nature of this whole thing we're in, you see. It likes to swing. That's why it does it.
have our final meditation and notice your mind. So many thoughts. Now notice the empty space, the neutral, uninvolved awareness that notice the mind's activity, and stay with this empty space. When thoughts come again, notice the space between the thoughts and stay with this empty space. All right. Now let us close with a short chant. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace.
Peace.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Well, I really like that video of Alan Watts. I've been a fan of his for many years.
Uh huh. He's a good guy.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he was a student of Krishnamurti's, probably one of his better students because he really got it.
Uh huh. And I think we actually are at a wonderful time where we have many teachers like Alan Watts that are available to us through the wonders of YouTube.
Hmm.
And I like this one because this is one of the ones where, like he does a lot of times, he challenged fundamental assumptions people make.
Yes. And he
And it,
does it in a fun way.
oh yes, I think he believes in fun. And I
Uh-huh.
like it. I like it that he basically characterize life like a dance or a song.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a wonderful way what's that, a metaphor? I don't know,
Yes,
to
yes,
characterize it, yeah.
yes.
I certainly remember feeling that way back in the 60s and 70s when we dropped out.
Uh-huh,
But we came back.
uh-huh,
But for a while, that was the idea, that you could tune
sure.
in, drop out.
Uh-huh, but it turns out that the real dropping out is not so easy because it's
No.
hard to drop out of your mind unless you do what Alan Watts is talking about and actually observe your mind and be willing to challenge these long time assumptions we hold.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyway, very good. I enjoyed this today and good to see you all. And I'll send you a link to the portion of the book that I read from 101 Zen Stories. And I think you might enjoy it. And I'm going to read some more from it next week. So I hope you like it because you're going to get more of it whether you do or not.
Oh, that's great, yes.
I like stories. Yes. I like
Okay.
to be read too.
Okay. Anyway, very good.
Thank you.
Namaste, and we'll see you next week.
Namaste.
Okay.